When you want to change the color of something on your Squarespace website, it can be a little overwhelming these days. Inside your design menu, you have a color palette, and then you have 10 different color themes, then a huge list of things inside those color themes. Honestly, it seems like way too many options compared to our older version of Squarespace, version 7. It did take me a few months to get comfortable using these color themes, but these days, I regularly utilize at least 6 of the 10 in every site I build. And in this episode of Think Inside the Square, I'll tell you how and why. Welcome to Think Inside the Square, a podcast full of quick tips and tricks to help you create a Squarespace website that you're proud of. I'm your host, Becca Harpain, creator of InsideTheSquare.co. And in this episode, I'm sharing my techniques for using color themes in Squarespace to create a cohesive and branded look on the websites that I build. For a transcript of this episode, along with the links to any resources mentioned, visit InsideTheSquare.co/podcast. The term Squarespace is a trademark of Squarespace Incorporated. This content is not affiliated with Squarespace Incorporated. Back in the olden days of Squarespace version 5 and even version 7, we had a big old list of all the things on our Squarespace website, and we can change the color of each one individually. It was a lot of work if you wanted to update something like an accent color for a client. You had to hop in there and click on every tiny little circle and make every tiny little change that you could. Color palettes completely got rid of that. In version 7.1, when you click on Site Styles and click into your color options, you have 6 colors in your color palette. Now, I recommend having 2 light colors, 1 accent color, and 2 dark colors. That's kind of the design standard that Squarespace has built our color options around. And you should definitely do that before you adjust anything inside a color theme. You'll notice as soon as you change a color in your palette, it's going to update everywhere. Everywhere that accent color, maybe it used to be blue and you change it to purple. Well, now it's purple in every single color theme. But you're not limited to this color palette. If you click into any color theme, you'll be able to manually adjust individual items. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because this is a podcast after all, nothing visual happening here. So let's pull back a little bit and talk about these color themes in general. I had to have a big mindset shift to be able to use them properly, and I want you to have the same aha moment. When you look at this list of color themes, you'll see that they're named. We've got light 1, light 2, bright 1, bright 2, dark 1, dark 2, darkest 1, darkest 2. At first, I thought it was just a little lack of creativity by the team at Squarespace, but I'm sure you get the idea. Pairs. They want us to think in pairs. What this means is you can have 2 different page sections right next to each other. Let's say one of them is bright 1 and one of them is bright 2. Both of these page sections can have the same color background, but each one can have a different color primary button. This gives you the option to add some contrast to your design in just a few clicks. But when someone looks at that page, it still looks like a cohesive section. So I want you to have that mindset shift. Start to think in pairs. Once you're comfortable with that, I want you to throw in a wild card. I like to create 2 wild card sections in my website, one with a dark background and one with a light. But this is where I use a more creative color accent, like maybe an orange list section arrow or a button that really pops with a more vibrant color than anything else in that color theme. So once you have your pairs of color themes, your 2 light and your 2 dark, I want you to create 1 wild card for both of those that really kicks things up a notch. Now, the last tip I wanted to share with you was about using these color themes strategically. Now, to be super clear, not all the websites I create need this additional theme I'm about to share with you, but I want you to consider it because it can be really helpful. The header of your website can be set to adjust dynamically. You can take the color settings from the first page section on that page. It's kind of cool, but sometimes kind of not. So I like to create a color theme that's reserved for my main navigation. In that color theme, I focus specifically on background, site title, navigation link color settings, and I also like to use this same theme for at least one main section of my website footer, keeping a high contrast and changing the default color for the active link. I've also had clients who had a completely different style for the mobile version of their website. Inside Squarespace, that's called the menu overlay, and you could change the background color, the link color, then the button color as well, and it only changes the mobile menu of your site and doesn't affect anything else. So again, I like to reserve one color theme specifically for my main navigation, a footer section, and the mobile menu. Now, I did say that was the last tip, but I've got one more, and I can't believe I almost forgot about it. This is an editing tip. When you're working in Squarespace and you want to change the color of something, I want you to hop into that Site Styles menu and click on Colors, click into a color theme, and if you click on something on your website, it's going to narrow down that gigantic list of elements to what you're trying to change. Give it a try next time you're editing Squarespace. Inside that color theme, click on something in the site preview and watch that humongous list shrink down to just the options for what you're trying to change. Now, if you do click that by accident, click Show All at the very top, and it'll go back to that big old list of all the items, but that's a super helpful thing when you're editing and you don't know what something is called, or you can't find it in the list. So there you have it, creative ways to use color themes. Think in pairs, utilize a wildcard for some eye-catching contrast. Don't feel limited by your color palette, and consider creating a color theme specifically for the global elements of your site: header, mobile menu, and an important section in the footer. And if you're brand new to Squarespace and want a little more help setting up your site styles, check out my course on creating a website with Squarespace at InsideTheSquare.co/start. That's InsideTheSquare.co/start. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I truly hope you enjoyed it. For a transcript of this episode, along with the links to any resources mentioned, visit InsideTheSquare.co/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and most importantly, have fun with your Squarespace website. Bye for now.